So, welcome, excuse me, welcome to Nick Davis, Psychotherapy, Hypnotherapy, NLP and Life Coaching. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by Nadine.
Hello.
Hi, Nadine. So last week was May's Mental Health Awareness Week. I'm really grateful that you've offered to have this chat about suicide, because obviously this is something that lots and lots of people were talking about last week, and we're doing it a week late, but like we say with mental health, it doesn't matter. As long as you get stuff done, that's all that matters. So we're going to discuss about why sometimes when people put my door is always open, my kettle's always on, I'm always free for a chat. That's not a great thing. But I just want to talk to you about your experiences with suicide, mental health and things like that. So just kind of tell your story, if you like.
So I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which for people that don't know what that is like loads of little traumas all knitted together in one big ball. And it doesn't just affect your brain, it affects your nervous system as well. It is inbuilt in you. And you can be quite easily triggered and suffer with a lot of anxiety and depression because of it. I've always kind of like handled my mental health fairly well. I've had some tremendous meltdowns in my time, but I've always been an advocate for mental health, and I used to do a radio show about music and mental health as well. So I find this, I mean, we spoke about this before, I find these statements highly annoying, and people putting up Facebook statuses being like, I'm always there for you, call me when you need me, I'm there for people with mental health, which I'm sure people do with the best intention. Sometimes it's to make themselves feel like a good person, maybe. However, when people have trauma issues, they cling to those statements. And I can tell you from my personal experience, I had a mental breakdown last year and a suicide attempt. And I called people, the people that were like, call me when you need me.
Yeah.
I'm always there. And the thing that happens when you call people who say they're going to be there and they don't answer, it starts to validate that voice in your head that tells you that nobody likes you, you're not worth it, you might as well be dead. It validates the gremlins. And once you've had like 3 or 4 no answers,
wow,
you can really start to spiral out, and you forget about the people that are actually genuinely there for you, that you can call.
This is something I really want to touch on, because I want you to kind of explain what that was like, what you were going through, how it feels to be in that space. And then I don't want to put the word in, but not having those people there, like kind of, I guess, rejection, or but how did it feel when you were going through, and what were you looking for, and what
I
did
was
you
looking
get?
for someone to like help me. So with the build up to my breakdown, I was telling people I feel suicidal. I've never used those words in my life. In the past, when I've had meltdowns or low mood, I've said I want to kill myself, I want to die. There's a very different connotation between those two statements. I don't think.
So what was the difference? What was the thing that pushed you over the edge, if you like?
There's so many factors to it, Nick. So there was arguments with my mum. I was in quite a toxic relationship. I'd just gone on the contraceptive pill, which really messes with your hormones, and everything I just got to a point where I just was not feeling loved or valid or wanted, and a lot of other traumas had been poked at the time, with regards to like sexual history, and it just all came on top at once. And it was such a, like, actually telling people I feel suicidal and then not listening or devalidating it validates you as a person. If people aren't listening to you, it feeds those gremlins in your head, like you're not valid, nobody listens, nobody really cares anyway, they're just faking caring about you. If they really cared, they'd listen.
And the other thing I think from a therapeutic perspective is I say to my clients, if you are struggling, and I'll need to give this number out now, do contact the Samaritans. I'm just going to put this in on the interview, because it's so important. So you can call 116-123, and it's a free call. There are lots of other ways of communicating with them via text and email, and it's Samaritans.org. So I just want to post that out there, because even as a therapist, because I'm a one-man band, just I work for myself, I can't offer that 24/7 service. So I never say that to any of my friends or anything, that I'll always be there for you, because I literally can't. Sometimes I might be asleep, I might be working, my phone's always off. So I
might be driving at the gym.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with it. Like, instead of saying call me, people should say text me.
All right.
Because if somebody gets a text, they read it. So I've got a really good support network in place now after last year. Yeah. I've got 2 friends. If I call them and they miss the call, they'll text me and say, are you okay? If I message back and I say, just for a chat, they'll be like, okay, catch up with you later. If I say, no, I'm not okay, they will like give me a countdown. They're like, right, I'll phone you in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. So you've got something to hold on to while you're in a complete.
I think that's really important, that sometimes it's like, the whole, it's good to talk thing. I always say, but people aren't listening. Most people don't listen properly, and that's half the problem. Because
or they do like my least favorite thing, which if like I know like this with myself and definitely other people I've spoke to with like various mental health problems, people offering solutions, because your brain starts building up reasons why not, and then you end up really frustrated, and then you end up shouting, or I end up shouting, and people think I'm shouting at them, I'm shouting at me, and it just really escalates. And people just need to learn some active listening skills. That's so important.
So active listening, do you want to explain that?
So active listening, sorry,
I interrupted you. So active listening, for those who don't know what it is.
So active listening is where you, first off, you listen, but you also repeat back what the person said. So if Nick was saying, I feel really angry about this, I would say, well, Nick, I can understand how you can feel angry about X, Y, and Z. Is there anything else you want to say about it? Because it validates the person. It's like telling them it's okay to have these emotions, and I understand why you're feeling them. So don't tell people not to feel their emotions. That's really toxic.
I always say that. I remember working with a client once who was particularly angry, and everyone was saying, "Oh, just calm down," and I just said, "No, but be angry for as long as you want, as long as it's not directed towards me." And they literally within 5 minutes had calmed down, but they'd been angry for a long time before they got to me.
That's one of the first things they teach us in behaviour support when we're working with like autistic clients, is never tell somebody to calm down. No.
So things that can be more helpful than just saying, I'll always be there, my kettle's always on, and things like that, because the reality of that is that if you're having a meltdown or you're really in need at 3 a.m. in the morning, who is going to pick up the phone? So I think it's important. What I would say is put the Samaritans out there, because I believe it's a 24-hour service, and
definitely
you can get some contact with some people there. But I think the problem with this meme, because it is a meme, is lots of people are jumping on it, and it's, I don't kind of want to go into this territory, but sometimes it can be, I'm going to post this because it looks a bit cool. Whereas when you understand the importance of mental health, and I just want to touch on 2 people that I lost in my life before I started this therapeutic journey. My cousin, who hung herself, Louise, probably 25 years ago now. And she had mental health issues. She was starved of oxygen when she was a child, and I was always really close to her. And I even went to visit her, when she was in hospital and stuff, when she was poorly. But she ended up taking her own life because she just was confused, and she was somewhere where they put her somewhere where it was alien, and I felt so sorry for her. And then one of my best friends, Dave Harrington, hung himself, 16 years ago now. And I didn't know at the time. He never said a word. He didn't say a word to me. Afterwards, I found out there was some money trouble. But honestly, this was another thing about mental health issues that I didn't understand. they put this face on it where you wouldn't know there's anything wrong. So some people, like, you're reaching out saying you're suicidal and still not getting the help. But then there's other people, and I'm sure you've probably done this yourself, we've all done it, where you just go, I'm not going to bother with anybody with my problems because I don't feel worthy.
Well, that's what happened. Like, people stopped listening, and I just went, okay, fine, don't listen to me. I'll just carry on, and hopefully, like, I won't do anything stupid. And then I literally woke up one morning, and I didn't even feel like I was in my body. I just completely
dissociation,
almost like it's completely dissociated, like I was in a trance.
Wow.
And it's horrible. And I think one of the things that people don't talk about enough is suicide survival, like the aftermath of what happens.
So can we talk about what happened? Is that okay?
Yeah, certainly. So my experience was, like, obviously people were really upset and really hurt, and you're dealing with your own emotions as it is. You're like, well, I definitely was like, I can't believe I did that.
Can we just go what you did? So you had an attempt on your own life?
Yeah, I swallowed a load of diazepam with some whiskey.
Wow.
Luckily, I passed out before I could drink anymore or take anymore. So.
And what was the next thing you remember?
Being woken up by my friend who found me and paramedics, and telling them to go away because I was sleeping.
Wow.
I was completely off it. I rang my friend. Luckily, so the only reason I was found is because I rang my friend. I don't even remember the phone call, but she told me about it. I rang her up and was like, "You can have my cat and my guitars."
Oh.
And apparently, I just, like, she kept ringing me back, and that's all I'd say, and, like, hang up again.
So lucky that you'd made those calls. So kind of maybe an unconscious cry for help as well.
Yeah, definitely. But then after that, after everyone was glad that I was alive, everyone was just really angry at me. And when you're dealing with your own guilt, you're looking at the devastation you've caused and the people you've hurt, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It definitely put me in a place where I was like, well, if everyone's angry at me, I might as well actually kill myself.
Yeah.
But the only thing that stopped me from another suicide attempt was seeing the devastation.
Yeah.
So it's really.
And what was that?
Hard.
People that care about you, and how upset you were? Yeah.
I had a few friends walk away from me, which, I completely understand. But, like, it's strange how people started making it about themselves. Like, I think I got to a point, it was just before lockdown happened, and I was actually really glad. I was like, fine, I can just sit on my boat, be on my own, and nobody can tell me off, and have a real good look at myself and address what's going on and sort my trauma issues out.
And then I know that's how we become friends, is that you do an awful lot of self-study, in terms of understanding yourself, understanding the brain, mental health and everything else. And that's why it's so good to get you on today, to get somebody with real experience of what it's like, because we can all kind of hypothesize what things are like. I remember going through, nothing as bad as what you went through, but really a low period of time. And I thought, do you know what, I'll test this out. For all those friends who posted that thing, my door's always open, my kettle's always on. And I remember ringing 3 people. I won't mention any names or anything, but they just, the comments were, "I'll chin up, you'll be okay," or "You'll be all right, you'll pull through." And I thought, if I was really in dire straits, that wouldn't be the thing that tipped me over to the good side again. And that's one thing I kind of want to get across to people is mental health is so misunderstood. Like, I had my own issues. I collapsed 21 years ago, suffered with anxiety, panic, OCD, and I had an 18-month battle with some really bad advice. I had counts and CBT, which just made me worse and just wrecked my self-esteem. So I've, like you, I've worked my own way out by learning stuff myself and learning what works best for me, and that's why I do it as a job now. And that's why I'm interested in talking to real people that can say, well, this is what it feels like. This is what helps. This is, like you were saying about the text thing, maybe people need to recognize that because I was watching something the other day about people have different styles of communication, obviously. People have different styles, but what people don't realize as well is that when you're under stress, Broca's area, which we've got here, which is responsible for language, shuts down. So it's more difficult to communicate or articulate how you feel. So when I'm working with therapy, I'll say to people, I'll call them grunts and groans. So, how do you feel? But that I can understand that. And that's why I work so hard on reading people's body language in order to understand what I can't do it 100%, don't get me wrong, but I can get a good ballpark of how they're feeling without them having to articulate. So text sounds like a positive.
And we're in an age where like we text more than we call people, and it's easier to text something than voice it sometimes, especially if you're feeling shame or guilt around how you're feeling, or I find after I've had like a tremendous meltdown, like something really big where I've screamed, I've shouted, I've maybe thrown something that I really like across the room, I feel embarrassed, I feel guilty, and that's really hard to discuss with people.
Yeah.
Especially if you've had a meltdown in front of people. I once had a meltdown in King's Cross. It was probably one of the biggest public meltdowns I'd had, and it was because my train had been cancelled and I couldn't handle with the stimulation of all the busy people at rush hour, my train being cancelled. All of a sudden the logic went, I was stuck in London, I was never going to get, like, it was completely illogical, and I just sat on the floor and had this meltdown where I cried like in the middle of King's Cross, and my friend who didn't know me very well just like looked at me like, it's so and it's like shame, and like it's so horrible.
But that's one thing about complex PTSD that people don't understand, is that the way it affects the circuitry in the brain affects the way you feel about yourself, your thoughts, your mood, and everything else. I just want to make it clear that
memory.
Sorry.
Memory.
Yeah. So just to make it clear, Nadine is not a client of mine because we're friends, so I don't treat friends as clients. But one of the things that I try and do is to just give snippets of information about the brain and what to do and how to sort of help things like that. But the other kind of symptom I find is that there's this going on, the emotional rucksack, that once that fills up and you're not ready for it, then all the balls come out and it goes everywhere, and that's what can create the meltdown. So we always say to people, if you can keep that emotional rucksack lighter, because the other thing with often people who suffer with mental health issues is they're often perfectionists and people pleasers, and they're always pushing themselves harder and harder and harder. And then it's a simplified model, obviously, but then this gets so full and then it breaks and all the balls come out, and feels like the end of the world. So is there any advice that you'd like to give to people out there that may be suffering with mental health issues? Or
definitely find the good people, the genuine people. I'm not saying like there's people that aren't genuine when they say it, but the people that are really reliable, and set up a support system with them, talk to them about it and get something put in place before you get into a mental health crisis, or and also I find it so a lot of people like avoid their triggers, and that's I feel it's one of the worst things you can do, because if you aren't feeling it, you can't heal it. And you can't, I don't know, if oranges were a trigger word, you couldn't go your whole life avoiding oranges. The chance it might upset you have to address your issue with oranges and heal it and work through it, and give yourself time and be really gentle and kind with yourself. One of the things that I did when I first started therapy was get really frustrated that I wasn't making any progress. I'm not making progress, we're just talking about the past. We're talking about the same things. We're going over the same things. And I'd get really frustrated until one day, like I think it was 8 weeks in, I kind of made a little breakthrough and I was like, oh, this is actually all worth it.
Yeah.
And don't give up on therapy when you think you're better, because you need to get past the bit and continue. There's always work to be done.
I totally agree with that. And I say that to people. I always sit in a chair at least once a year, you know, because if you're growing, you're automatically going to experience, you know, stress, anxiety, low mood, depression, things like that. So I think it's healthy, you know, whilst you're growing and learning about yourself. I don't think it's a bad thing to go and sit in a therapy chair and have that support. So like you were saying, when you were saying about your support network, it's almost like finding your tribe, you know, your mental health tribe, the people that speak your language. Because, you know, there's you know, one of the things I try not to do is never judge, because it's like human beings are human beings, and there's infinite possibilities in the way they can behave and react. Well, not infinite, but, you know, there are many, many different ways. So people are just how they are in that moment. And like you were saying, don't tell them not to feel things. That's the worst thing. So, you know, allow people to be themselves, allow people to express, like you were saying, allow them time. I think things like, it's helpful for people to look into things like meditation, yoga, hypnosis, hypnotherapy.
Anything that gets rid of that extra adrenaline.
Yeah. So, and you know, exercise as well. Something as simple as going for a walk with somebody can be really helpful as well. Definitely.
And diet as well is so important to have. If you're putting junk into your body's not going to operate on a
people don't realize that toxins going into the body via processed food, that adds to the emotional rucksack, the stresses and things like that.
It just goes to that like dopamine hit as well. Like trash food gives you a dopamine hit, and when you're dopamine deficient or your body is addicted to dopamine, that's what you want. I'm going to eat the McDonald's, I'm going to eat the KFC or like whatever fast food or chocolate or crisps because it makes me feel good.
Yeah. So brilliant. Thank you for that, Nadine. Is there anything else you want to share just before we kind of wrap up? I really appreciate your time and thank you for telling your story. I just noticed you've got on your t-shirt, what does it say?
Make your happiness a priority.
Perfect. Perfect. So I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for being brave and just sharing those things, because it's a really difficult topic that most people don't like to talk about. So I really do appreciate that, and hopefully if there is some people out there can help them.
And I think more people with mental health issues should be speaking out. And you know, it's all such an individual journey, and just because one person has complex post-traumatic stress disorder doesn't mean that they have the same as somebody else. Like, it's so widely spread, and I really feel that if you have a loved one with complex post-traumatic stress disorder or borderline personality disorder, please do your research on the condition, because you might understand some of their behaviors that they can't explain themselves, and you might find some really good techniques to help them, but also to help support yourself, because I can appreciate if you have a loved one that with mental health problems, it can be hard for the person that's supporting them as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Nadine. You take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Right.
Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.